Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's event. I am Jason Gilbo. I use he and him pronouns, Executive Director of ASH. I will be your staff partner in this event today, so if there are any logistical issues, please feel free to reach out. If you need captioning in your Zoom menu bar, there is a CC or closed caption button. Our captions today are being run by Zoom AI. If you have any questions or issues with that, just let me know. Also, throughout the session, as you're comfortable, please feel free to turn on and off your video. We, of course, love to see faces, but know folks may be eating lunch or multitasking or doing other things. The chat's also available for questions along the way, and then there'll also be an opportunity for Q&A at the end. Additionally, for all of our ASH events, I just want to remind folks that when you registered, you agreed to our events code of conduct. I'll share that in the chat. Ideally, we won't have any issues, but in case we do, we have a process. Just let me know, and I will reach out to you all, or I'll follow up with you. At this point, I'll turn it over to Natalie.
It's good to see you all today. So this institute was held in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and so we want to go ahead and provide this land acknowledgement that we also utilized at the actual institute. And this graphic comes from the Native Governance Center website, and I can throw it in the chat. But we definitely thought that it was an important graphic to show the land which Minneapolis sits on is the original homelands of the Dakota people and also the Anishinaabe people as well. And so I think that this graph has a really wonderful kind of balance to showing and representing both of Dakota and Anishinaabe sites and what they were referred to as in their language, descriptions, and all of that. And so I just want to read a part of the land acknowledgement that's provided by the Native Governance Center, where they say that Minnesota is a home of the Dakota people. The Dakota have lived here for many thousands of years. Anishinaabe people reside here too and reach their current homelands after following the Magus shell to the food that grows on water, Mahnomen or wild rice. Indigenous people from other nations also reside in Minnesota and have made innumerable contributions to our region. Just want to take that time to acknowledge the traditional homelands of the people that this institute was held on, and if you feel like you would want to share your where you're coming from, you can please share your the original homelands of the people that you're on in the chat if you want to. But I'll go ahead and turn that back over to Jason.
Hey again, everybody. I am joining you today from the lands of the Chitimacha, who are the historical and continual caretakers of the land in what is now known as South Louisiana. I also want to share over in 2023 and 2024, as Natalie shared, we hosted our annual conference in Minneapolis, and our local and community engagement committees developed land acknowledgements for the conference, kind of extending what Natalie just shared. So I shared that in the link. Another thing that I want to share in relation to land acknowledgements is that as an association, ASH has been doing a land acknowledgement perhaps a little bit more formally since 2019. And we've gotten much better at it. Of course, we still have work to do as an association, as higher ed in general. But one of the things that we had a work group look at a few years ago was how do we extend beyond a land acknowledgement? So as of last year, and I'm going to share this in the chat, ASH created a way for us to make a financial contribution to local communities. In some circles, this is known as a land tax. Of course, this terminology varies by location, but last year we made our first contribution to three groups. So $2,000 each to the Minneapolis American Indian Center, the Minneapolis Native American Community Clinic, as well as Red Lake Nation College. So beyond speaking the words during our events, we also are putting funding to local groups where we visit. So I also wanted to share that as well as part of my land acknowledgement. So, looking at these events that we have hosted now for 3 years now, our first event started back in 2021 in Puerto Rico. We met with a variety of Puerto Rican higher education leaders, somewhat similar to the format for this year, where we had a group of ASH members come together, uh, kind of think about how we can leverage the expertise that our ASH members have collectively with the expertise of folks who are doing the work locally on the ground. In 2022, we did the same thing in Southern Nevada when our conference was hosted in Las Vegas. And with both of those events, another link I'm going to share in the chat is the end result of those events were reports. I think 30, 40, 50 page reports that both ASH members and our local partners worked on collectively together. One of the things that we realized is those reports were great, but it was a lot of work on everybody. So the end result, instead of doing those reports, is the event that we're hosting today. Something that's been kind of the through line for all of these events is that as ASH, as an association, as members, we want to intentionally engage with folks who are doing higher education research work in the places that we're visiting. And we also want to ensure that we're entering these relationships really as reciprocal relationships, that we're not coming in and saying we're the experts on higher education, listen to us, but that it's really a reciprocal relationship, recognizing the expertise our ASH members have through their research, as well as the local expertise that our partners have on the ground. So with that, my final note is just to thank everybody who participated in this institute. Again, we've been doing this for 3 years now, looking to do it for our fourth this year in Denver, hopefully. And especially want to thank Natalie and Roberto for their leadership of this event over the past year. And with that, I will turn it back over to them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jason. Formally, I don't think I know everyone here. So I'm Natalie Youngbull, and I'm an enrolled citizen of the Cheyenne Arapaho tribes that are based in Oklahoma. I'm also descended from the Fort Peck Assiniboine and Sioux tribes of Montana, and I'm an assistant professor in the Educational Leadership and Policy Studies Department, and I teach classes within the adult higher education program, specifically in the student affairs area and higher education administrations area.
Hi, everyone. Buenos dias. My name is Roberto Orozco. I'm at the University of Minnesota here in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, Minnesota, as an assistant professor in the Department of Organizational Leadership, Policy, and Development, particularly in the higher education program. So working with master's and doctoral students in our higher ed program in different capacities. And we want to share that I know Jason had talked a little about the history of the ashe ascendium. And so just want to give a shout out to Nadine, who's on the call with us, who allowed us to really come into the Red Lake Nation College space and be in that community together as we hosted the Minnesota Institute the day of the pre-conference of ASH this past semester.
Yeah, thank you. So, I was invited to help co-lead this institute, and I'm really appreciative of Jason and also working alongside Roberto throughout this past year, and excited, to have been able to work directly with our tribal college leaders in Minnesota. There are 4 tribal colleges that are located in the state that is known as Minnesota: Red Lake Nation College, Leech Lake Tribal College, White Earth Tribal and Community College, and then Fond du Lac Tribal and Community College too. So, we were able to get to know and build our relationships with the tribal leaders from these different tribal community college or tribal colleges and universities, or TCUs as they're better known. and also some of their staff as well. So, we were able to have a couple of different Zoom sessions with them. And then we were able to actually meet in person at the Red Lake Nation College Minneapolis site that had just opened, I think that spring, last spring. And then we were able to come in November and host the day-long institute there. And I think it was a really wonderful event to host. So I want to go ahead and provide some introductions of our tribal leaders, and then our tribal college leaders, and then we will turn the time over to them. They have about 7 to 8 minutes apiece to really showcase and highlight the work that they're doing to introduce their institutions to everyone. And then from there, then we'll move into the groups that the ASHE Fellows worked in, the small groups, and they'll be able to kind of present about some of their key takeaway points from each of their small groups. Do you have anything else you wanted to share at all before we jump in, Roberto? Okay, so first, we have from Red Lake Nation College, Chief Dan King. Unfortunately, he is not able to be with us today as he got pulled into another important meeting, but we definitely have representation from his better half, Nadine Bill, who is also the executive director of the Minneapolis site. So Nadine is who we really worked with in this space because of hosting the Institute at the Minneapolis site. So we're happy to have you here with us, Nadine. Next, we have President Anita Hansen from Fond du Lac Tribal and Community College, and it's great to see you here on here, Anita. And then we have President Anna Shepard from White Earth Tribal and Community College. I'm very grateful to have also worked with Anna during this time. And then from Leech Lake Tribal College, hopefully we're able to get her in. We have Dean Anaya Hawk, and she will be able to present about Leech Lake Tribal College. She's the Dean of Academics there. So we can go ahead and jump into the presentations. And first we have Nadine from Red Lake Nation College.
Hello, hi everybody. Everybody can hear me good? Again, I just have to thank the partners here at ASHE Ascendium for a real meaningful year this year with this institute. It has been very impactful. I think I can speak on behalf of our tribal college in hosting. We just really appreciate how sincere and how genuine the outreach to the TCU community has been here in Minnesota. So thank you very much. I think it's been real good work this year. I just wanted to share some of the work that we're doing here at Red Lake Nation College. And what you see here is a picture of our new Minneapolis site. And I think you can go to the next slide. We are the youngest tribal college of the AHEC network, the AHEC system. We were chartered in year 2000 by Red Lake Nation Tribal Council. We partnered with our sister institutions here in Minnesota, first Fond du Lac and then Leech Lake Tribal College in the growth development phases of an emerging tribal college institute. In 2015, we started an initial candidacy, and in 2021, we're granted independent accreditation as its own TCU. At that same year, we were grandfathered in as a 1994 under land-grant college status. So the evolution has been rapid since 2021 and 2015. And so we just want to share some of the work we've been doing. We do feel like as a TCU, we're transforming Native communities. And that's our big goal. That's our big, we cast the net, we want to have impact. So we recognize that we operate in a specific niche, and we call Red Lake Nation College a great place to start. We know that we are preparing students for their next phases in higher education. So we want to provide them the academic skills and, better yet, the confidence instilling the Native identity in their learning in higher education as higher education students. We also consider ourselves that we're in the people business, not only with our students, but with our staff and faculty. Higher education is the people business. We are community. We're a community of teaching and learning. And so we acknowledge that that's the work that we do. This last year, we had over 370 students in our academic programming and approximately 747 in work that we do through our extension programming. In 24, we had 36 grads. This year, we're really excited to have 45 grads. And we've realized a 47% increase over the last 4 years in our enrollment, which has been a very steady, steep incline of growth for our institution. One way that we do that is ease of transfer and working with state partners. We have articulation agreements with all of the Minnesota state schools. And so that really provides this pathway for students to their next phase of their learning. Go to the next slide. One of the ways we do this, and we actually have, when we started our Minneapolis site, we had to create a new entity and we called it RLNC Without Borders. And one of the definitions of that really was to remove barriers and to remove the borders to education, and meaning that we're not going to be confined necessarily to work within the reservation, but that we know that tribal members from Red Lake occupy geography all across the country and the world. So we wanted to be able to serve students anywhere online in our HighFlex model. We are a public institution, similar to many or community colleges, and just require a high school diploma or GED for admission to access. RLNC Without Borders really is about access and opportunities for Red Lake tribal members, Natives, and for low-income students. Okay, next slide. So one of the questions is always, how do you do your work and what makes RLNC unique? And I think that TCUs in general do this work better than most. And so this is quote unquote our secret sauce. It's really about a personalized approach, one-on-one attention for students. We intentionally keep our class sizes small. We funnel a lot of resources into our academic space to ensure that we are not going to grow beyond 20 students in a class. We try to keep it between 10 to 15, especially in some critical filter classes that we have deemed as important to learning. We consider ourselves a family college, and evolving connections in a holistic manner is at the center point of who we are. We're fortunate to be one of the Achieving the Dream Schools and Holistic Student Success initiative, and we take that seriously, holistic student success, looking at the whole person, realizing that they're part of a family and they're part of a connection, they're part of our kinship as Native people. We do teach from a Native perspective. It's very important. The 7 Ojibwe values at the center point of our curriculum, and we work to engage and to integrate, infuse all of this into our curriculum, whether that's math, language, history, culture, English. It's just it's the backbone of our curriculum. All to instill pride, culture, language. We focus on mentorship. We know that about 87% of our students at this point this year identified themselves as first generation students. And a lot of our students have said to us that this is the first time they've ever had a Native instructor, a Native college instructor. So we, again, focusing on the human resources, 70% of our staff is Native. And that provides a good role model, a mentorship model for us. We do holistics, like I said, holistic student success and wraparound services, which include counseling, emergency funds, and food shelf. Okay, student benefits, we also don't offer loans. So it's really important that students not go to the next institution with any debt. And one thing we learned through the pandemic that another access point and a barrier was technology. So we offer all students engaged in our academic programming technology in a form of a tech backpack that has dramatically increased our retention, persistence, and graduation. And I think my next chart shows some of that impact. We have steadily grown, as you can see, over the last, since 2010, focusing on our graduation rates. And this is our IPEDS data. Last year, our cohort for 24 increased to 53%. And we're really proud of all of that work. And a lot of that is on our faculty and our student success teams. Next slide. As Natalie mentioned in the intro, we did expand to Minneapolis in fall of 24. And the reason that was always part of the plan. As a young, like I said, as a newly accredited institution, it was always part of the plan. It was part of the last 10-year plan in strategic planning, but a vast majority of Red Lake Tribal members live off the reservation, and Twin Cities is home to over 50,000 natives from around the country. You know, you hear the term underserved a lot, but what we were hearing from the community as we were doing focus groups and surveys, that they felt like they were a never served community for a tribal college. And so bringing the tribal college experience to a major metro area has been very well received. We have worked really hard to create a 21st century campus site and technology space for learning environment that harnesses a high flex model. And RLNC is one of the first there has been a lot of work in major metro areas, but we're one of the first permanent TCUs in a downtown metro area. And there's a picture of our site. And that's it. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Nadine. Next, we have President Anita Hansen from Fond du Lac. Oh, need to unmute.
I got it. Thanks, Natalie. Bonjour Nindanoe Maganidug, Anita Hansen Indije Gikenamigu, Gawa Ba Bikanikog Nindunjaba, Nagachuanangabe Gikandaso Wigamig Indanoki, Namin Wayne Damin Oma Aiyu. Greetings, all my relatives. In this language, I am known as Anita Hansen. White Earth is where I'm from. Fond du Lac Tribal and Community College is where I work, and I'm happy to be here today. Nadine shared some really amazing things about Red Lake Nation College, and as I thought about her presentation, I think about each of the 4 tribal colleges that have the opportunity to speak today, and it's really an honor to be here to talk about Fond du Lac Tribal and Community College. But we all have our distinct differences, but at the same time, we all do an amazing job of supporting our American Indian students to meet their dreams and to pursue their educational goals. So that's, I think, one of the things that you'll probably hear amongst all the presidents here today. I'm here with a few folks from campus, our Dean of Education, Sarah Montgomery, our Vice President of Student Services and Enrollment Management, Damian Paulson, and our Environmental Institute Director, Courtney Kowalczak. It's important for us to make sure that we answer any questions that come up toward the end of the today's session. And I wanted to make sure some of our key folks were also heard from if there are questions that come up. What makes Fond du Lac Tribal and Community College unique? Many of you may or may not know that our college is the only tribal college in the nation that is also part of a state higher education system. That system is Minnesota State. The Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior chartered the college in 1987 after a number of years of communication between tribal leaders and their community. It eventually then moved into the city of Cloquet and our surrounding communities identifying the need for not only a tribal college in this area, but also a community college. And that is something that we are proud of. We serve our communities, Carleton County, St. Louis County. This institution was built on providing an education for our tribal enrollees, in addition to those that are non-tribal. That is what makes us unique as a tribal and community college. There is a co-governance agreement between the Fond du Lac Tribal College Board of Directors and the Minnesota State Board of Trustees. There is an MOU that has been put into place since 1995. We are also part of the land grant, 1994 land grant institutions, as all tribal colleges are. We are also the only two-year college in Minnesota to be approved to offer a four-year bachelor's degree. 20 plus years ago, the state of Minnesota approved the college's desire to bring an elementary education degree to our campus. We had our first graduates. It took us a number of years to build that program, to get HLC approval to offer the program on our own. And in May last year, actually it was May of 24, we had our first graduates. Our elementary education curriculum interweaves Anishinaabe values, knowledge, and traditions into the coursework. And that's a program that we're quite proud of, with the goal of bringing more American Indian teachers into the classrooms in the state of Minnesota. I think currently the data shows that less than 1% of our teachers here in Minnesota are American Indian or trained in incorporating the ways of knowing into the curriculum. The mission of Fond du Lac Tribal and Community College, I won't read all of these, but these three areas, our mission, our core values, and our vision, really are the guiding principles for the work that we do here at Fond du Lac Tribal and Community College. One thing that I didn't add in there, as part of our WINHEC, our World Indigenous Nations Higher Education Consortium accreditation, we also have 7 cultural standards that are interwoven into all of our WINHEC accredited programming, including Environmental Institute programming. Our core values really are at the core of the work that we do here as an institution with our students, with our employees. We live these values. They are not just words to us. And so it's extremely important for us to be able to share that with everybody here. Next slide. Some of the things that we wanted to kind of share were not only the highlights of the college, but a few of the obstacles that we are currently facing. For the next few fiscal years, we have some budget concerns here at the college. Our allocation comes, 60% of our allocation comes from the state of Minnesota. We have learned in recent months that the state is kind of undergoing some budget concerns, which then impacts the campuses in Minnesota State regarding their allocations. This is likely to happen for the next few years, and so that presents some challenges for us in terms of ways that we look at balancing our budget. And so we've had a lot of conversations about that in recent months. We have a USDA Next Gen DEET grant that is currently have the grant. However, it was in a pause for 2+ months at the end of January. And so right now the grant is moving, but we did face some questions here in the last few months as to whether or not that grant would remain. Some of the bigger things that campus is working on right now is HLC preparation. We have a Higher Learning Commission accreditation visit in October of 2025. We have been working on our assurance argument, making sure that our evidence is there. It's a big visit for us. If we're successful with that, we'll have a 10-year accreditation for the college. We, a year or so ago, completed a 5-year strategic plan. We finished master academic planning at the end of December, and we just started our master facilities planning that will take place throughout the rest of this calendar year. We are part of the Student Success Initiative with the American Indian Higher Education Consortium. I think that we're finishing up our first full year. We are also an Achieving the Dream institution. I think I visited with one of our other tribal college presidents earlier today. I think they have a site visit with their coaches. So that has been invaluable to the work that we've done here to support our students. We always look forward to our commencement. That will take place on May 15th. It's the best day of the year. Many of us are super excited about watching our graduates walk across the stage and to be able to celebrate them. Next slide, please. This page really just shows the various programming that the college offers. I talked a little bit about our WinHEC programming, our Anishinaabe, Gikendasuanan programs. We also offer liberal arts and science programs, 2-year programs, diplomas, certificates. We also have community extension programming through our Environmental Institute, or just programming that the college offers each school year. We also have some outreach programs that we work with our local Ojibwe school, the Fond du Lac Ojibwe school, and another partner school related to our elementary ed and early childhood programs. Next slide, please. I guess that was it, I believe. So Natalie and Roberto, we appreciate being invited to your institute, and you guys have done a wonderful job, as Nadine shared.
Thank you so much, Anita. Really appreciate you. So we can move on to our next tribal college. If we have President Anna Shepard.
Hello there. Hopefully it's not too noisy here. We have a lot of construction happening on our campus right now, so I do apologize for that because I realize they're right outside my window. And so we will get going. So very first and foremost, thank you. I've appreciated being a partner with this NGIM and ASHE. That is something I've actually talked with faculty about, looking at becoming members and going to those presentations with ASHE. I thought they were wonderful when I went there and just got a lot out of it, and especially the work. And thank you to President Hansen. Yes, I just came right out of my meeting with our Achieving the Dream coaches. So that's why I was a little bit late. So thank you. I apologize ahead of time. So I'm going to talk to you about White Earth Tribal Community College. So just a little bit about our history. We are 27 years old. We were started in September of 1997. So a little bit different. It took a little bit longer. You know, we had travel support. We worked with them all along, but just actually get that resolution down didn't occur until 1998. So that always makes it a little bit interesting, because people are like, well, I thought it was 1998, but we actually opened our doors in 1997. It was 14 students that we started off with, and now we're about 140 to 150 students per semester. So we've grown, but we're still one of the smallest TCUs. We're not the smallest, but we're still pretty small. When we started, you know, we were renting buildings, you know, across Mahnomen area here. We, you know, started with one, then we expanded into another building. We had another program there, and, you know, wound up being 3-4 different sites. And so a little bit later on, it was, you know, probably about 10-15 years ago, we started to build the main campus here. So that way we could be in one location and, you know, just do it here. And so right now we are working on phase 4 of this expansion. So we're getting ready with, you know, just for increase, because we slowly have been increasing our numbers here too. Let's see, our first graduated class was in 2000, and we had 14 students that we graduated with there. And then our accreditation, you know, we first were accredited in 2008 for full accreditation. And just in October of 2024, we just did our big 10-year reaffirmation. Everything's was successful. We passed with no probation or focus visit there. So that was the first time that we achieved that milestone here at this institution. So I always remind our staff, it just took us 27 years, but we got there. Next slide, please. And so this is, you know, like my predecessor said, you know, we're all, you know, very similar in nature, you know, with our mission, vision, you know. One thing I always like to say, you know, when I say our name, that it says White Earth Tribal and the keyword there, and community college. So that way our doors are open to all students here. So, you know, there are some people in the community that believe that TCUs are only available for tribally enrolled students. So that's why we always emphasize that word "and" in there, because we take even our allies here. And I think that speaks volumes too, knowing that, we are a tribal college and university, that we have, community members who are electing to come here, knowing, that we embed our Anishinaabe, language and culture right into our degrees. And so it happens seamlessly. And I think that's amazing. So right now we're about 75-25, so 75% Indigenous, 25% non-Indigenous. And I just think that's phenomenal, that we do that. And I know all of us do that here in Minnesota at TCUs. So like we talked about with the core values, we also honor the 7 grandfather teachings. So when you first walk into our building, the very first room that you're going to walk into is our drum hall. So our focus is on our drum, and then surrounding that drum all around us is our 7 grandfathers. So that is embedded in just our way of life. Everything that we do, we live by these core values.
What up, buddy?
Some of the academic offerings that we have is the Associate Arts degree. We also have 3 credit-bearing certificates. And then we have a lot of the workforce and non-credit training opportunities. And so something that we're currently working on right now is trying to find funding to build, building for our trades building, because we have identified that as a need in this area, that this is something that we need to do. Next slide, please. So I'm not going to go too much into that, because I feel like they already talked about that land grant status. We are also part of that 1994 land grant, that works on those 3 pillars, with research, teaching, and agriculture. We also have that Anishinaabe traditions, like I talked about. It's just embedded through everything. When you walk into the building, like I said, you walk into the drum hall, which speaks volumes. And so it's every so often, I just like to go down there and sit, just listen to the drum, get that good medicine. We also have, our sacred medicine. So when you walk into the building, if you need to smudge yourself or just, have anything, that's always available to you. And then as you go around the building, you can clearly see how everything is just, embedded, working together. And again, lifelong learners. So even with our student body, our average student age is around 34, 35, but we do have students here as young as 16, and we have some who are up into their 80s. So we have all walks of life that come through our doors. Next slide, please. On our horizon. So just like the other ones, I kind of put these together, what are our successes and where are some areas of, I call them derailers instead of challenges, because it's just something that gets you off track. But how do we get going, so we're going in the right direction? So the first one is like monitoring the various funding streams. We know what's happening across with the political arena right now. And that's something that all of us, just not TCUs, but all higher education institutions are feeling this and, watching, and we're seeing how things are playing out. We're seeing who's stepping up in doing that. So right now I'm really watching how Harvard is, handling the situation and how people are coming to support them. And I just know that this is going to also happen when we need to do that with TCUs. Our enrollment, that is something, like I said, that we are increasing just from last fall to this current fall that we did. We went up 16%. So that's slowly growing there. And so I also know that if we can get our trades building, I see that growing by leaps and bounds. Our big focus this year, and this is something that we worked on with ASHE and also Achieving the Dream, was to increase our student retention. And so a lot of different things that we have come into place. Right now we have small class sizes, low faculty to student ratios. And the other thing that we've really looked at is what was going well. So we looked at our data. So if you look at our data, you can see there was improvement. So we had to go back in there and analyze what made that change. And so one of that pieces was we had hired a success coach. But when you look at that, we only had one success coach hired for all of our student body. And like I said, we have around 140 to 150 students. So that's a lot of work for one. So we hired out. So now we have 3.5 student success coaches. And so again, and I think that's also where you saw that retention from just one semester. We already went from 22% increase in our retention. And I think that's paying off. And again, we'll continue to analyze our data and, you know, make those changes. And I always tell people, let's think outside the box. Let's try something new. And let's try something, you know, that has that Indigenous focus to see if that will help out too. We're also, like I said, a lot of construction. Right now, I have 17 projects happening on campus here, you know, from really small ones to quite large ones. Our biggest one is we are doing the phase 4 expansion, and that's going to be over 18,000 square feet. That's going to include, like I have that list there, that wellness center, dining area, and additional office spaces. So we are using some of our extra dollars just to finalize that, you know, that funding needs to be spent down. And so we're hoping to get that done here by the end of the year. We also got an NSF grant that's helping with our Chem Lab addition. So this is going to help us with our area, because right now we weren't able to offer like some of the sciences that required, like, you know, hoods, you know, working with different chemicals. So now that we're revamping that space, that should be done here at the end of this month. And then for this fall, we'll be able to offer those courses. So we're going to be designing our AS science degree on that one. And also this summer, fall, we'll be starting our strategic planning. That is something that does need to be updated. Right now, our strategic plan is in place, but it covers from 2020 to 2030. We also know that COVID happened in there, shifted a lot of things, let us know what we could do well, and, you know, some of those changes. So we're just learning that we're really going in a different direction. So that's why we're going to be updating that here shortly. And I already talked about the trades. So next slide, please. Yep. So I just want to say thank you. And in my language, miigwech.
Thank you so much, President Shepherd. Appreciate that. So next we have Dean Ania. And Ania, forgive me for I didn't ask how to pronounce your last name, so I don't want to butcher, but I'll turn the time over to you.
Yeah. Bonjour, Nishnabeduk, Ania Nindigenous, Gawin Nindudu Damasi, Bamajikamag Nindunjaba Ninda Igoge, Ga Ozaskwa, Jimika Gabek Kundasa Wigaman, Nindashi Kikinwa Amage. I'm Ania Hake. I'm actually Dean of Academics at Leech Lake Tribal College. When I did my introduction there, I introduced myself as a teacher at Leech Lake Tribal College because that's how I memorized and know my introduction, and my language teacher hasn't given me new words for my new position yet. I've actually been Dean of Academics since spring of 23. I kind of started in fall of 22 a little bit. So I was faculty here for a number of years. And I'm entering my 10th year here at Leech Lake Tribal College. And you can see our mission there. Leech Lake Tribal College provides quality higher education grounded in Anishinaabe values. We actually just had our HLC visit on Monday and Tuesday. And they asked us, well, you know, what does it look like when you revise your mission statement? And I said, this is something that we never revise. This is our mission, and this is what we go by. You know, we always make sure it aligns with our strategic plan, but it's a very important mission. And I did want to mention, I'm kind of stepping in a little last minute for somebody else. So I just did a quick little slideshow tonight, but I'm glad and humbled to be here with other college leadership, and they share a lot of things in common. Next slide, yes. So yep, here's just a little basic information. We were started in 1990. Our first college president was Larry Aiken Iban, also Bejigagabo Iban. He's walked on now. He was also a mentor of mine when I was a young faculty. And I also just knew him ever since I was a little kid. So we also got that same land grant status, and we have an extension program here on campus. We actually just restarted it with a new director, and so things are going really well there. And we became fully accredited by the Higher Learning Commission in 2006, and we maintain that accreditation to this day. So we actually have a lot of programs for being a small school. We're about same size as White Earth. We've had semesters where we've had almost maybe 300 students, but when we get to that point, we're like, ooh, can we have any more than 300 students without having more expansion? But the liberal education degree is the most popular, but that's kind of just a default degree pathway. And then a lot of students end up maybe changing it later on. We did have separate science programs, but we found they were low enrollment. And so we kind of rolled them all into one Indigenous science with emphases. And forest ecology, information technology, and human health. Early childhood education. That one is also a low enrollment program. And when we did program review, we were like, well, what do we do with low enrollment programs? Some, universities see a low enrollment program, they see, well, we got to cut the fat here. But this is just such a crucial profession, especially in the area. And we need to continue to support that. So it's a program we decided to keep. And then we have Integrated Residential Builder. That's our carpentry program. That is actually quite popular program, and especially a popular program. We get a lot of women that go through the carpentry program as well. And our newest program that kind of launched this fall, we don't have a big cohort for yet because we just got it going, but is our Ojibwe language program. We do have some diplomas and certificates. We have an electrical diploma, a residential carpentry diploma. We designed the Integrated Residential Builder program to be able to stop and have a diploma at the end of a year, because we found at the end of 1 year, students had enough marketable skills to just go into the workforce right away. But we still wanted them to have a diploma to celebrate at the end of that year. And then we worked with Leech Lake. And then we worked with Leech Lake Head Start and Early Head Start to develop these 2 levels of early childhood education. One's a certificate, meaning it's like 20 credits, and the other one is a little bit longer and has additional language classes involved in it. And so educators in the area need CDA certification in order to teach in early childhood, and they have to get that every 3 years. But if they get one of either the certificate or the diploma, they don't have to retest every 3 years. But we still offer that on-site coursework and support for ECE educators as well. Next slide. Just real quick highlight. I could say so much about Leech Lake Tribal College, and I'm so proud of it all. But just, getting out there in the community a lot, community engagement, and seeing the students get opportunities for civic engagement. We send students all over the world. We've sent them to South America. We sent them to major cities in order to present. Some students have never even been on an airplane before, or even left Minnesota before. And then we bring them their voice and their opportunities to different places so they can present and feel empowered. We do have a great focus on our culture, language, and land base. Leech Lake Reservation is 50% water. And so we do a lot of research with the water. Like we had a student doing research on microplastics in fish. And of course, language, everybody at the tribal college is required to take Ojibwe 1. And some even go beyond as well. So we do have that focus on the language, because the language is contained in, the culture is contained in the language. When you learn it, it'll inform you. So natural resources and traditional foods. We do activities with students. We go out netting. We teach them how to clean the fish. We have a class about gathering Mahnomen, wild rice. And we bring people on campus to offer teachings. We've had an elder in residence program to discuss these things and how things should be done. And we offer numerous professional development opportunities to not only students, but faculty and staff as well. And for our students, we don't currently have a workforce development office, but we just offer that lifelong education and career services. students can come to their former faculty mentor and say, hey, I'm looking, for a different job. And like, well, does this require some more education? Or is there some way I can help you get into, a different career? Because we maintain those relationships with our students beyond graduation, because many of them stay in community. We do have some obstacles. We're a small college, but we have the reporting burden of a much larger university. And so making sure that we maintain capacity and infrastructure to be able to get all that reporting done. Grant funding, there's some uncertainty now with, with grants and budgets. We were actually in partnership with that D grant with Fond du Lac. And so it was very concerning because that grant wasn't just paying for salaries, it was direct student support. And so it was concerning that could just be taken away. And so how do we plan for the future? We also were going to build a building as well to connect all 3 of our buildings on campus here. But we decided to put that project on hold because the prices of things changed, that they were vastly different from when they were when we contracted a year ago. And so we kind of had to put that on hold. And also we want to make sure we have good, strong reserves to keep us going in the face of uncertainty. Maintaining programs and accreditation standards with fewer resources. I don't want to be out here and say the HLC is an obstacle. It's not. They're always willing to work with us, but we have to make sure that we have, like, for example, we've desperately need like an institutional research position, and it's hard to recruit. It's hard to get people to come to a rural area where it's cold in the wintertime. And so, how do we, maintain that capacity to make sure that we're at accreditation standards? And we also have threats to our natural resources and the Anishinaabe lifeways, and that's threats to our wild rice through invasive species. Climate change is also threatening things. Shorter winters are threatening natural resources as well, and migratory patterns of animals, chronic wasting disease in Wawashkeshi, the deer. So those are some of the obstacles that we do face, but we face them strong and with our students in mind. Next slide. Pictured on the right there in the graduation robes is Elaine Fleming. She's started with the college. She's been with the college for over almost 30 years. And she's a Leech Laker. I'm not a Leech Laker, I'm an ally. But she's a Leech Laker, and she always talks about how Leech Lakers, they're the shining people. And so we do shine here at Leech Lake Tribal College. There's a couple of our students from the ricing class with their hall. A lot of our students rely on income that they can earn from ricing. It's not just keeping it in your food stores. The band pays ricers for their rice, and they rely on that August income to hold them over. And next slide. I also want to say Miigwech Bizendawieg. This is one of my Ojibwe teachers. He walked on this year, Mezanana Kwadiban, and he was really important to the college, and we wanna carry on his legacy of getting students to know their language and getting other people to understand Ojibwe language and culture. And we're open enrollment. This is open to everybody. This is important knowledge for everybody. So miigwech again, and we'll see if we have any questions later.
Thank you so much, Ania. And, just want to express again appreciation to our tribal college leaders who've joined us. I think this was like a challenge to, say what you want to say about your institutions in such a short amount of time. I think just like Ania said, like there's so much to be said about each one of these tribal colleges. And I know, we gave you all very limited time, but I think you all definitely utilized it in the best way possible to really highlight each of your institutions. And I just, thank you all for that. And so we're going to move forward. So as part of this institute, we had our tribal college leaders, and then we had had 10 Ash Ascendium Fellows who submitted their applications to be fellows and to participate in this institute. And so then they were broken up into 3 specific groups. And I don't know if Roberto, if you want to go ahead and kind of talk a little bit more in this space.
Yes, so the 3 groups that we, similar to keeping in line with the theme from our time in Southern Nevada, the 3 areas of focus for the Minnesota Institute was supporting rural post-secondary education and workforce training, streamlining key learner transitions, and removing structural barriers to success, specifically when it comes to supporting students in tribal colleges and universities in the state of Minnesota. And so what we're gonna do in this next part is, part of the work that we did with our tribal college leaders was to, in the fall, hold listening sessions and to learn more in depth about the work that they were doing, to then be able to have the relationship to come together through the Minnesota Institute in November, during the ASH conference. And so what we're going to highlight next in some short time is each group is going to just provide an overview of some of the key takeaways, key learnings from their conversations and discussions in their respective groups throughout the Institute. And so the first group that we have is the Supporting Rural Post-Secondary Education and Workforce Training, which includes Tarnjeet Kang, Emily Kramer, and Christina Nader.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm Dr. Emily Kramer. I use pronouns she, ella, and I am from The Ohio State University. I placed my land acknowledgement in the comment section at the beginning, so if you would like to take a look at that, that would be great. And I was blessed to be able to spend time with the group, and I won't go into how thankful I am for this experience, but I'm here to talk about overall big pictures, the key takeaways regarding the strengths. And so our group developed 3 main strengths from this supporting rural post-secondary learners and workforce training that include a sense of belonging and retaining ties to the community, self-advocacy and accessibility. A little bit deeper in those areas, we felt that tribal colleges played a significant role, a transformative role in higher education landscape by centering belonging, advocacy, and access in their institutional missions. And these institutions are rooted in Indigenous cultural values, community, offering students a powerful sense of belonging and identity. As highlighted in many of the examples that you all heard, tribal colleges enable students to remain close to home while pursuing higher education, therefore maintaining familiar ties and cultural continuity. They also have the strong sense of belonging woven into every aspect of their campus experience that fosters student learning and student retention and student success. And it also serves as a model for other institutions nationwide to strive to complete and obtain these inclusive learning environments. In addition to that belonging element, we felt that tribal colleges empower students to become self-advocates, embedding cultural relevance and community responsibility into their curricula. Tribal colleges help students not only navigate educational systems, but also envision themselves as leaders within their communities. This creation of this internal work pipeline led student-led initiatives exemplify how tribal colleges equip their learners to advocate for themselves and their futures. And we also felt like accessibility was another hallmark feature of these tribal colleges. Located in rural and often underserved areas, these institutions provide essential educational opportunities where few alternatives exist. They address barriers such as transportation, technology access, and basic needs, demonstrating that education can be both place-bound and equity-driven. And we felt that through innovative partnerships and committed to community development, these tribal colleges remain beacons of opportunity and resilience, offering critical lessons for higher education at large.
We also identified a few different opportunities and challenges as well that the tribal colleges in Minnesota navigate to support student success, particularly in terms of being able to access higher education. So that could relate to infrastructure challenges that you find in rural areas, such as access to the internet for remote learning or working opportunities, transportation. And we also heard a lot about the amazing, incredible work that's being done to support students whose basic needs are not being met through other means. That can relate to, food insecurity. It can relate to childcare as well. And so this is an area where the tribal colleges continue to work with students to identify resources that can support them in being successful. One of the other key things that came up, as was mentioned in the last presentation, Being able to recruit and retain employees in rural locations can be a challenge, and that can lead to high staff turnover. But one of the other key opportunities that really stood out, Emily mentioned earlier the sense of belonging. When we look at higher education institutions in the United States, a lot of them are founded with the aim of being very exclusive and elite spaces. But tribal colleges, as we learned from their mission, vision, and values, are really grounded in the community. And so when it comes to creating a sense of belonging and a campus climate that's conducive for both students and employees, they have a lot of wisdom and promising practices that they've been engaged in for years that can be shared with the broader higher education community. Can we go to the next slide, please?
Hi, everybody. I'm coming to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Tonkawa and the Sana. And we wanted to talk a little bit after the listening sessions and the institute that we experienced in the fall about the supporting workforce training. So tribal colleges in Minnesota leverage their extensive networks and tailored programming to effectively connect students with workforce opportunities is what we learned. Establishing strong partnerships that cater to student needs and fostering connections within tribal communities and businesses. There is a notable opportunity to enhance preparation for employees who will be working with these students, particularly as many job prospects that are located outside of tribal communities. Institutions like Red Lake Nation and Fond du Lac are actively engaging in partnerships, as you already heard, that emphasize workforce development and training, addressing the community's needs and creating valuable internship opportunities. Additionally, the demographic shift at colleges highlighted by an increase in older adults returning to education post-pandemic further opens avenues for innovative programming to support diverse workforce participation. And I wanted to use actually some quotes from the listening sessions that we sat in on in the fall, because I thought their words were much more powerful than anything that we can share as participants in the Institute. So the leaders at Fond du Lac during the fall said, we're in the people business and not just us serving our students, but also serving a community, whether that's through extension programming, language programming, training opportunities with, say, a workforce development opportunities with our casinos. We have a great partnership with the Red Lake Department of Natural Resources program. We have emerging partnerships, and they recently just signed a partnership with the Student Freedom Initiative, which is based out of Washington, D.C. And the White Earth leaders shared with us that they experienced a moderate shift in the age range of attending students from 20 to 28 to 30 to 35. A lot of that is when COVID, they went through the pandemic. A lot of people lost their jobs. So they're seeing older adults returning to get some type of education to get back into the workforce.
Thank you, Christina. So another one of the challenges that was noted is that a lot of job opportunities are located outside of Native communities. So we've heard some examples that were mentioned before from the tribal colleges about how they work really closely with local employers to build opportunities within the communities. One of the other things that really stood out in the listening sessions is that, a lot of times the onus is on students to adapt and to assimilate into the workplace. But there's also a responsibility for employers to be conducive and nurturing work environments for students to thrive as well. Thank you.
Thank you all. The next group we had was Streamlining Key Learner Transitions, which we had Dr. Christine Nelson, Dr. Robin Minthorn, and Andrew Marks. They were not able to be with us, so I'm going to read through some of their opportunities of the listening sessions and also the Minnesota Institute. The information they provided was the opportunities to address perceptions in both directions. So that's really thinking about improving the perception of students coming from tribal colleges and into four-year universities, recognizing the strengths and resources of TCU curriculum, and being able to improve knowledge of the four-year university system in the transition from TCUs, really being able to demystify the sort of the transition for students who are coming from tribal colleges and understanding the areas of support and resources that they can get in terms of coming into the university system. The other opportunities was removing procedural barriers for students. So developing and promoting the role of faculty and administrative partners at TCUs and four-year colleges and universities, acknowledging and reducing points of struggle in bureaucratic and procedural processes that might be unknown to TCU students, And then developing bridge programs to break down silos between institutions. And so one of the conversations that was had in the Minnesota Institute was thinking about how do we uplift existing four-year student-centered programs. As some folks have mentioned, some of our tribal college leaders have mentioned the wraparound programs, right? That bridge policy, practices, and activities, particularly as students are thinking about the transition from a tribal college to a four-year university. The last group we have was focused on removing structural barriers to success. And this included Dr. Stevie Lee, Dr. Gresham Colum, and Serena Gray.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dr. Gresham Colum. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Minnesota and a first descendant of the Stockbridge-Munsee Mohegan Tribe of Wisconsin. We had a really great conversation with the strengths focused on excellent Indigenous-centric financial aid at both TCUs and statewide in Minnesota. And I know some of our TCU partners already talked about this. We know that finances are often a barrier for many students, including Indigenous students. When we were at the Red Lake Tribal College, we had the opportunity to hear from a student panel of their students who, and I was able to ask about financial aid. And I think this quote from one of them really represents how great these financial aid opportunities are and what kind of difference they can make. They said, "It is everything. It led me to a different path. I'm motivated to excel." And then also, and this others touched on this, TCUs serve as a vital bridge for both transfer pathways and future opportunities. And then as far as opportunities that we identified, increased programming focused on asset-based learning rather than deficits, which includes moving away from colonial approaches and mindsets that do not really value the way Indigenous ways of knowing that our students bring to TCUs and other institutions. A quote from our conversation was, "Look forward, not back." And then also increased teaching and programming, which incorporates cultural teachings. And I know we already do this at a lot of our TCUs, but I'm excited to see even more of this focus moving forward. And one of the quotes from our discussion was, "Build on where we are now and to enhance student success through curriculum redevelopment." Thank you.
Thank you to all of the ashe.ws fellows and just the conversations that were had during the Minnesota Institute. I also wanted just to open, Serena, I see that you're, and I don't know if you had anything to add. At this time, with the remaining time that we have, we want to invite folks to raise their hands via the Zoom reaction button, to be called on to ask a question or to post your question in the chat box. I'll leave it at that. If folks want to, folks have any questions about anything that was shared for our tribal college leaders. Emily?
Yes, hi all. Once again, I'm so grateful to be here in this space with you all. I hope everyone's having a good Friday. My question is in regards to the math curriculum. And so when I was a full-time, now I manage some research projects, but when I was an academic advisor and I worked with different community colleges and four-year institutions to create some articulation agreements for more seamless transitions. And one of the complaints concerns, I think justifiable complaints concerns that the students had on some of these math classes were just, applying the math content to their major and their career and their future career. And one thing that I heard both back in November and then today was, infusing students' culture and more relevance into the math curriculum to help students succeed and to keep their interest and also to maybe relate it more to what they want to do. And so I was interested in if anyone had any thoughts on that, and maybe even thoughts related to how to make it like a transfer course or we call it in Ohio like a tag course. Any thoughts on math related curriculum and how to make it more applicable and how to make it transfer friendly and those kind of things?
I can actually jump in and share just a little bit about that space. Like, so I worked at the College Fund, the American Indian College Fund before my faculty role. And I worked with and I served tribal college faculty. And so we hosted a research convening. And one of those years, a faculty member I'm trying to remember what institution he came from. His name was Dennis White. And he was an elder, and he taught some of the math courses. And his presentation was around how he taught them from this perspective of being, for him, he was a beater and he was self-taught. And he taught the students around about how, math is woven into these cultural practices such as beading, right? That they, as a beader, you have to know how like how many beads actually go into making, these traditional designs, the designs around, the florals, but then also how you connect them. And he like even highlighted, the different things that he made. He was wearing a vest that was beaded, had these really intricate designs on them, and he said it took him 3 years to finish that vest. But he was saying that this is it. This is how we engage with it. This is how we live with it too, right? It's not just something that we're learning that's kind of like abstract and not related. It is very much related to how we live and how we carry on these traditional teachings and practices. I think Serena has her hand up.
Yeah, I mean, unless somebody, this is a different question. I was gonna kind of, so if anybody had another response for Emily's question, they can.
I do, Emily. Hi. So at Red Lake Nation College, and I know several other tribal colleges participate in Carnegie Math Pathways. And we have for the last, I don't even know how many years now, maybe 8 years. But one of the things that our math instructors do is just really, when we talk about infusion, he has taken, he's non-native, he's an ally, he's taken upon himself to learn Ojibwe language, he's taken Ojibwe language courses, and he opens almost all of his classes with Boujou. He learns his own phrases, and his whole approach is about putting the mindset at ease before they start learning math. He's also done what he calls pertinent learning lessons to the community. He's taking data and statistics from either our Department of Natural Resources and infused them into his learning, into his curriculum, or he's taken data. One of the classes worked on MMIW research, murdered and missing Indigenous peoples research, and infused it into the classroom. So just making, I guess, curriculum and lessons plans more relevant, and I get amazed at how engaged students get when things are a little bit more enhanced and relevant. So those are just some examples of how we've been mathing, making it relevant.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
And then Sarah had a response, I think, as well.
Yeah, so this is a little bit more specific, elementary education from Fond du Lac. So we've also incorporated, we call it wigwametry, and students, maybe it is part of our elementary education math for teachers, but it also falls in those categories. So a lot of it is, maybe starting small for elementary students and doing the small wigwam in your classroom, but he also then takes them out to make the wigwam out further. So it's courses for the students to prepare to become teachers. So just embedding it, like you said, and putting it in there is very helpful if that can happen.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Serena, you had a question? And if you have questions, you can also add them to the chat box and we'll read them out loud.
Yeah, I didn't have a question, but you had asked me like if there was anything I wanted to add, and I kind of thought of some things. So yad hadon anishlingi balagan nishlin not odin et hachini bashishchin balagana dashache honagani dashanale look Arizona de nasha in the Norman, Oklahoma de kehashte she Serena Gray inishia agud ego de nas nishlin. Hi everyone, I'm Serena. I'm a third-year doctoral student at the University of Oklahoma, and I was really privileged to be a part of this ashe.ws Institute. And Gresham like was able to pull out a lot of our really key points that we had pulled from our conversations. But I think that one of the other really big takeaways, even just from that day, was the need for more spaces similar to what Natalie and Roberto had like created by doing this institute. We had a great time and we kind of like made some jokes about how like our table kind of became this anti-table that we all got to sit around and you know, like the conversation was still focusing on a lot of the questions that they had posed for us, but it also was an opportunity for these leaders of these tribal colleges to come together and talk amongst themselves as well and to build community for themselves. Um, we had Anna Shepherd and like Roxanne. I can't remember her last name. I think she's at Fond du Lac, but we had some like really amazing like Native women at our table who were just able to like visit and talk about what's going on at their tribal colleges and kind of offer that support for each other. And so I think that that is also like a key takeaway that we can all acknowledge is like the way that even building these spaces where we come together to have these conversations is essential and becomes a strength for our tribal colleges because that is how we operate as Native peoples. Um, and that like creating the space for all of that and the wisdom that exists within our communities starts to help break down those barriers that we kind of started talking about as well. So I just want to acknowledge that. Yeah.
Thank you, Serena. Other questions that folks may have? I know that we you know, when we first started this institute, Natalie and I had several conversations and then also in just building a relationship with all the tribal college leaders about how many ways tribal college leaders are getting pulled in terms of different initiatives, right? This partnership with ASHE and SNDM, some tribal colleges were told us they we're you know, we already have a partnership with SNDM in different capacities, different ways. And so for us, we really wanted to be intentional in sort of saying, how do we not replicate sort of the labor that the tribal college leaders are already doing, and think differently about what can come out of the Minnesota Institute. And in thinking about that, I think one of the questions that I have is in what ways, you know, whether it's small or big, can ASHE members collaborate with or support the work that's happening in the state of Minnesota, right? We have members who have capacity and have different skill set, different knowledge, different research agendas. But just thinking about, and I know it's a very big question, very broad question as well, but having some of the tribal college leaders attending the ASHE conference this past semester, what are some of the ways that tribal college leaders who are here with us today can think about some of the entry points into building a relationship or building coalitions of support for the work that's happening already or some of the opportunities that you spoke about?
I can answer that if you would like. So what I really appreciated, which helped us, because like you said, you know, we are a rural small college, but if you look at our dollars, so we're atypical, you know, compared to regular higher education facilities, because most auxiliaries, you know, for funding dollars is around, you know, 75 to 80%, you know, is grant, and then the rest is other funds. Whereas ours looks very different. We're about 93 to 94% grant funded. So we have very little dollars to operate with. And so what helped us is, you know, having this support and then being able to pay some of those fees to go to the ASHE conference. And so those of us who did attend, you know, I appreciate it. I would love going there and just, expanding, some of my contacts that I was able to meet with out of there, and just build, more relationships and just hear other people of, just gathering those ideas and just coming together. So, because we all know it's all about relationships, in going in the support. So I appreciated that. And then also, we try and we make a conscious effort, as Minnesota TCUs, but it's hard for us to even come together, even though we're in the same state. So we purposely meet monthly, whether it's through a phone call or online. And so, we host that meeting, and typically, like, like I've mentioned before, it's just the three of us, even though we still have, we offer it for all of us to come in. But it's just a nice way for us to connect, to validate each other, that we're going through something similar. Or sometimes we just need to bounce an idea off of, like, have you tried this? Or I'm looking for something, what are some suggestions? And just having that. And so I think this just, again, just helped us with that. And, that's very powerful. So thank you.
I just have a quick add on that. I think that what made, and I was sharing with Natalie a few weeks back when she happened to be in town, I think one of the one of the real things that I think made your institute unique, and I want to use the word genuine, is that everybody who was participating in this really wanted to hear about tribal colleges. It wasn't a have to, it was I want to, I need to learn, or I want to hear these things. And that separates out our work quite a bit. And so when you're able to provide this space for this type of work, it becomes really strong and meaningful. And I think that provide that, honestly, and I told Natalie this, this has been one of the best experiences this academic year that I've had. And I've been in higher education a long time. And we're participating in all these things each year, but this one is a standout. And I think if you can replicate this moving forward, I think that it would be really beneficial as you move throughout the country, and help other tribal colleges in other regions. I think that this format worked very well, and it gives tribal college a voice. It also allows other scholars from across the country to truly spend time with us and learn about who we are, what our backgrounds are and the work that we do. And I hate to use the term legitimize, because that's not, but it does. It allows us to have our work seen in a way that needs to be seen and amongst our peers.
If I could add to the great words by Anna and Nadine, this is Anita from Fond du Lac. I think we had the opportunity for the day to sit with each of you researchers. I think that's not enough time to figure out, what more can be done, what other things, what other things would help you as researchers? What other things would be helpful to us as tribal colleges? I think it would take more time. Anna talked about relationship building. I think that was just a start. I think for any good ideas to move forward, it will take additional time to know more about us, to figure out just what it is that we can help you with, or you can help us with, your researchers. And so, sometimes the capacity for research at tribal colleges may not be the level that the tribal colleges would like to see, but in time, through conversation, maybe there's something more that can come out of it. It is a hard question to answer, Roberto, without a little bit more thinking.
Thank you all. I know, and I know that there's several folks on, in the space with us who are in the state of Minnesota, who are also connected to ASHE, and are also supporting tribal colleges in different capacities. And so for Natalie and I, this is a conversation that we want to continue to have, because one of the ways that we continue to sustain these relationships is to not see this as just a one-time event, as Nadine was mentioning, but as a continual opportunity for us to sort of support in different capacities, specifically given the socio-political climate, the precarity of funding, right, and everything that's being thrown at tribal colleges and other universities and colleges as well in this current moment. So thank you all. Natalie, did you want to close us out?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think thank you so much, Anita, for sharing those words, because I think that that really, kind of sums up my thinking around this. You know, we were able to engage in this work, and I'm very proud of what we were able to, come away with. But like you said, it's just, this is just the beginning, really, right? This is definitely not something that I see as kind of like, yeah, like Roberto said, like a one-off kind of thing, because we are in the business of building these relationships, right? I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar that, I was invited to the space by the work that, that I get to engage with tribal colleges. And that was something that, was set in place in the position that I had before I came into faculty. And I did not see that manifesting in the ways that it did. But for me, as a researcher who is not based within tribal colleges, it was something that was important for me to continue my relationships that I had already developed, and to continue in this work, and however I can, to work with tribal colleges, to uplift tribal colleges, and all of the work that you all do, and the multiple hats that you all wear. I'm just so thankful to have had this experience with you all, to share in this, and to hopefully see what can manifest from it as we move forward, and just express my most genuine gratitude to you all at Leech. And thank you to, again, Nadine, to you as the representative from Red Lake Nation College, the executive director of the Minneapolis site, that you opened your doors to us. It's such a beautiful space. And I mean, we were just so lucky that you all were able to get that in place in time for us to host this event, because whenever we had our initial conversations, I told Roberto and Jason, and I was like, it really means that much more to actually experience being at a tribal college. It's really not enough to kind of talk around these distinctively unique institutions, as I like to term them, because you have to have that experience. You have to be immersed in the space to really gain an understanding of the true value and the true need of these institutions. And so I'm so glad that we were able to be there and experience our LNC, the Minneapolis site. Because of that, I was able to then return with a small group and host a little writing retreat there. And that was really fun. Also want to, acknowledge again our panelists, our student panelists that we were able to engage with when we were there back in November. We really gained so much insight and knowledge from them. They were so amazing. And just want to acknowledge them. Alyssa Fisher, Visner, Ron Cloud, Summer May, and Scott Lynn. We wish them well as they continue on in their educational journeys. And then also, want to acknowledge the grant funding provided by the Ascendium organization, and very thankful for the opportunity to be able to bring us together in this space. And then again, to you all as our tribal leaders, thank you so much for your time. We know that you all are doing so much, especially at this point in time, and going through so much. And so, wish you well, wish you all the strength to be able to overcome, the current climate, and in moving forward as well. And then also to our ASHE Ascendium fellows, thank you for being part of this work, for participating in this institute, you know, and for just being open to engaging and learning, and also working through any sort of like assumptions that you might have had, right? That's, to me, that's part of the work as we are in the space of, you know, scholarly engagement. We come in with a lot of assumptions, and part of it is just learning how to let those go and just be open to what we can engage and engage with, who we can engage with, and learn from. So, you know, that's really what I have to say, Roberto. I'd like to turn time over to you to also to give your acknowledgments if you want.
Yeah, no, just thank you so much. You definitely gave all the recognition and acknowledgements that we had spoken about. But I just want to thank you, as someone who's here in Minneapolis, along with Gresham as well. Like we hope that we continue to foster and sustain these relationships in different capacities, and just see what this, how, going back to what Nadine said, the ways that we can replicate this, right? There's already conversations about what this might look like as we head into Denver in the fall. And so we just want to thank you all for modeling for us what it means to be in relationship with each other as we're sort of planning, learning and listening about what tribal colleges are doing around us. So just thank you again from both Natalie and I.
And thank you, Jason, too.
Yes, thank you, Jason.
Can't forget Jason. Thank you. Thank you all. Take care.
See you later.